About Zohran Mamdani, who is the new mayor of New York. It has the largest population of Jewish people outside Israel. In one of his first acts in office, he has revoked the city's implementation of an anti-Semitism definition that includes some forms of Israel criticism. This is a sweeping rejection of what his predecessor did. I want to talk to Nicole Lampert about this and a number of other issues, including Iran. Nicole is a journalist and campaigner against anti-Semitism. Nicole, so far, so Zohran Mamdani. I mean, I don't think people will be particularly shocked by this, but of course, there's so many New Yorkers, I spoke to one of them actually over the Christmas period, who think he's just, an absolutely wonderful person and he's a liberal, marvellous human being. Well, actually, if you want the freedom to be Jewish and to be a Zionist in New York, well, that's just taken a backseat under day one of his administration.
Hi, Peter. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, it's pretty depressing times for Jewish New Yorkers and the ones that weren't really keeping an eye on what was going on, because I think in America, Jewish people have tended to be Democrats, so they tended to vote for the Democrat incumbent. But what we've seen with Mamdani is a kind of Corbynization of the Democratic Party, at least in New York. As you say, it's kind of the most Jewish city in the world outside of Israel. Around 12% of New Yorkers are Jewish. And already he's changed a load of laws, including, so not only the definition of anti-Semitism, because he himself would fall foul of it, but also in terms of people being able to demonstrate outside synagogues. So he's making life a lot more dangerous for New Yorkers, as in America, as in the rest of the diaspora. There's an outsized number of anti-Semitic attacks, and this is a new mayor who's going to be encouraging them. So I'm very worried about all Jews in New York. He had around 33% of Jewish New Yorkers voting for him, which is a big, although it sounds like a lot, normally around 60% would vote for the Democrat incumbent. So some people did notice it. Others probably thought, oh, he'll leave us alone, it's scaremongering. But from day one, we're already seeing the danger of him, and I do worry about him.
Let's talk about this country and the danger of pro-Palestinian activists in Scotland. Just talk us through this story.
Well, for me, there's nothing pro-Palestine about it. It's pure treason. They attacked a Scottish factory that helps make arms for a company in Italy that helps with the F-35 jets. The F-35 jets is something that Britain is part of, Israel, America, a number of European countries. They're the top fighter jets. So although it's aimed ostensibly against Israel, really they're attacking us because these fighter jets are used by us, and actually we don't have enough of them because they cost so much money. So what they're doing is they're spending more money. They've gone to this place with hammers. They videoed themselves hammering computer equipment and all of this, and this is just treason. This is terrorism, and it needs to be taken seriously. We've had enough of this. We are at a dangerous time. We can see what's happening on the continent with Russia, and this is, Putin must be rubbing his hands with glee at these idiots.
Do you think perhaps there's actually been a better course of action by the police? We look at Newhall, for example, and the pro-Palestinian activists for Palestine Action there, who are on hunger strike. Sometimes they're on hunger strike, sometimes they're not, but there are many people supporting them, and the police did seem to take greater action against them over the Christmas period, although I don't know if any arrests were made. I certainly didn't hear any. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And similarly, I don't know if any arrests were made. I didn't read about it anyway, for saying globalise the Intifada, which they appeared to do at points.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we've seen them standing fast against the hunger strikers, unlike with the Egyptian person that they allowed in, where they were swayed by hunger strikes. In this particular case, I think they realised that once you give in to one person who's on hunger strike, then you give in to everybody, and then everyone in prison is going to be on hunger strike. So they have stood firm, which is really important, and those Palestine Action activists, alleged of a number of terrorist offences, are still in jail. So let's hope that perhaps this year we see a hardening of attitude when they realise this isn't just about the Jewish community. This is about our society and what we're allowed to tolerate and what we are not willing to tolerate. And one of them is not attacking our arms factories, and another one should be, as you say, not allowing hate speeches on our street.
Which brings us nicely to our next story. Gary Lineker, for it is he, went on a very challenging podcast with Zach Polanski, the leader of the Green Party, their deputy leader. I would strongly argue is anti-Semitic in my strongly held personal belief. Gary Lineker talking about the Palestinian issue with Zach Polanski. Let's just have a look at just 1 minute of this nonsense from the two.
I get my phone every day and I cry most days when I see it. I mean, innocent kids being just killed, like snipers and bombs, and I mean it's just immeasurably wrong.
Like it almost feels ridiculous that we have to say that children dying, or in fact anyone dying who's innocent, is wrong. Yet we do have politicians who seem to be turning away from it.
I find it extraordinary, really. I think most of the world sees it for what it is. Obviously, October the 7th was horrendous. We know that, but we also know that it didn't start on October the 7th. It started a long, long time ago. And of course, Israel has the right to defend itself, but then why doesn't Palestine have the right to defend itself?
Where to start?
Where to start, indeed. I mean, who's feeding Gary Lineker all of these images? There's been a ceasefire now for several months, and that's not to say that the end of the killing sadly is over. There's still little skirmishes between the IDF, which has also seen soldiers killed, and Hamas, but in general it's been a much more peaceful situation. Sadly for the people of Palestine, many of Gaza, there are people living in tents, which is horrendous. That's because Hamas still won't even accord to the first part of the deal, which it still has one hostage body, which it's not letting go of, let alone disarming. In fact, it's trying to take more control of Gaza.
And the irony, sorry to interrupt you, Nicole, but the irony of all of this is, you and I have spoken about this many times on this station and between ourselves as well privately. At no point does anybody want any innocent child or civilian man or woman to die, to be attacked, to be targeted. War is dreadful. War is horrible. It'd be wonderful if it didn't happen. The point is that what we all want to do is free the Palestinians from Hamas. That is not what Gary Lineker seems to be saying. And this classic trope of, oh, well, the 7th of October was dreadful, but but actually it has gone on a lot longer than that. And why can't the Palestinians defend themselves? Well, it's a lot more than defence of what happened on the 7th of October. I would question him about what actually happened on the 7th of October on those horrendous beatings, people who were burned, who were dragged through the streets, raped, taken as hostages, killed. Absolutely horrendous. And I mean, now he mentions it because he knows he has to. He has said absolutely nothing about that on Twitter at the time. He's also, oddly, said nothing about Iran. And we see an awful lot of people who are supporters of the pro-Palestinian cause you would think, oh, hold on, you're against oppression. You're against people being told they can't have free speech. You're for freedom. Maybe those activists in Iran are things you'd like to comment on, but apparently it's all a bit difficult to report on, according to John Simpson of the BBC. Apparently it's all a bit difficult to cover. Well, it's not really, is it, Nicole?
I mean, that's absolutely fascinating. So John Simpson on Twitter X, he's saying that one of the reasons the BBC hasn't been really reporting on what's going on in Iran is because they don't have any reporters in there. We, as British taxpayers, we pay for BBC Persia, which, although they are based here in the UK, they obviously have contacts in Iran and know exactly what is going on. And this is, in 1979, just for a bit of historical significance, there was a revolution, and there was this mix of the communists, the socialists, and the Islamists together to fight the Western Shah and to overthrow him, which is what happened. And then what happened was the Islamists then killed most of the socialists and communists. They strung them up. Certainly all the women were forced into hijabs. And that's what's been happening in Iran since. But, you know, one of the ironies of today is that we do see the far left connecting still with
it's a really good point. The red-green alliance of, guess what, communists, socialists and Islamists coming together again. And guess what, it hasn't worked out very well for Iran.
And actually, that's what we see in the Green Party. So we see this anti-Zionist gay Jew, Zach Polanski, and just below him, you know, are Islamists, and you can see how it's not going to work. But you know, in Iran, who knows what is going to happen? Because there's certainly people are on the streets and they are angry. And although there hasn't been enough of this on British television or in the newspapers, this is very much an important issue for Britain, and it's an important issue in many ways. But, you know, one is, of course, we are all obsessed with the Israel-Palestine war, but that wouldn't exist if Iran wasn't determined to try and end Israel.
And just briefly, on that note, actually, what do you make of Donald Trump saying that the US is locked and loaded and will intervene if Tehran kills any more anti-regime protesters?
I mean, I think, you know, let's hope, because if Iran's regime goes, the world will be a much safer place in many ways. You know, just the fact that Iran is helping to create the drones that Russia is using in Ukraine. This is how far the tentacles go. The Iran also funds the Houthis, which have been bombing British shipping in the Red Sea. So Iran is a danger to the world. So if something can be done against that regime, and what people in the streets in Iran are calling for is the pro-Western Shah to return, then we would see a very different world. And I've got a friend, Lily Moo, who's Persian, who has been very active in speaking up for Israel too. We've been in Israel together, and you know, and our dream is to one day walk down the streets of Tehran together.
Yeah.
And who knows? That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
It certainly would. Listen, thank you very much indeed, Nicole Lampert, the journalist and campaigner against anti-Semitism. Thank you for